Lishana Tova, welcome to Beth Judah. Once upon a time, in a place very close to here, a woman was walking the beach, and she walked every single afternoon. At the end of the walking of her 10,000 steps, she would take time and sit on the beach. She would watch the waves flow in and out, and she felt the wind and enjoyed the warmth of the sun. It is in moments like this that she truly felt the presence of God, and she would offer her prayers, her hopes, and her blessings. One day, as she was offering her meditations, a rabbi came walking along the beach and stopped to say hello. He asked, "What are you doing on the beach?" She answered, "Every day I walk my 10,000 steps, and then I take some time watching the beautiful waves, feeling the warmth of the sun and the beautiful breeze. It is the calmest part of my day and the time that I am most connected to God," she said. And the rabbi asked, "Have you ever tried minyan?" She said, "No, I've never thought of it because I don't read Hebrew. I don't see the point of saying words I don't understand. I don't know the melodies, anything." He replied, "If you come to minyan, you will learn the words, learn the melodies, and in addition, it is such a warm and welcoming and Hamish place. Just try it." And so she decided to take the rabbi up on his offer. And she went to minyan. And she didn't understand a word of Hebrew being recited. She was uncomfortable with the melodies, and she didn't feel the same connections to God that she had felt while sitting on the beach. She even worked hard at trying to learn Hebrew and with the rabbi and the melodies with the chazan. But she did love the camaraderie and the friendship she rekindled and created. But still, something wasn't quite right. And one day she said to the rabbi, "Rabbi, I've tried to learn the Hebrew. I've tried to learn the melodies. And after so many weeks of doing this, I understand them all just a little bit better. But there's still something that's missing. I love the camaraderie and friendships that I have made here. But there's still something missing, something that isn't right, something that's different from being on the beach. What do I do? What do I do, Rabbi?" The answer begins to lie in a commentary that's found in Machzor Lev Shalem. In Machzor Lev Shalem it says Tefillah, from the root word palel, and often translated as prayer. The noun also implies self-judgment. Moments of tefillah can bring insight and affirm many commitments, many of the religious commitments we make. So you have to ask yourself, do my prayers have an impact upon me? Am I listening to myself? Have I changed? Is there something different about me? When I offer my prayer, do I go through an act of personal transformation? You see, when we pray, are we more concerned about getting to the end of the service, or are we truly listening to our prayers? Do the words that I say, the music that I sing, have they impacted upon me, and have I changed since the beginning? The verb lahitpalel means to actively fill our hearts, to think our thoughts, to dream our dreams of what and how we would like to change the world and ourselves. As many who go through therapy, meditation practices, and even groups like Alcoholics Anonymous learn, we have to accept the things that we can't change and have the courage to change the things we can. Tefillah is in the here and the now. During every Amidah, we recite, Baruch atah Adonai shomea tefillah. We praise you, God, who hears our prayer. Perhaps shomea, hearing, would better be translated as listening. Does God listen to our prayers? Perhaps or perhaps not. But more importantly, do we listen to our tefillot? Do we listen to the words we recite, both the ones from the prayer book and the ones from our hearts? Do we listen to the music? Does it incite us to take action? Does listening to the voices of the community spur us to make changes in ourselves? Or do we just let it all pass by? The experience of tefillah is multifaceted and takes work as we become aware of our inner selves, our world, and God. Tefillah is an intentional dialogue, a dialogue which causes us to sit up and pay attention. To be moved by tefillah means we need to invest ourselves in the moment and to use all of our senses, our full body, to be involved with it. And since tefillah is multifaceted, there are different ways to approach it, both in synagogue, in minyanim, and when we are on our own. This past July, the New York Times published an article entitled "The Morality of Meditation." The premise of the article was to share the idea that meditation has a profound effect on improving the mind and on helping us to become more compassionate. It raises our level of compassion for others. The experiment they conducted showed that those who meditate seem to increase their level of compassion and ethical behavior when interacting with others. Now, I'll tell you, I have not done a scientific survey of prayer, but I believe that prayer has the same effect upon us as well. The founders of Hasidism called this form of prayer hitbonenut, or mindfulness meditation. When tefillah is approached in the form of hitbonenut, or as a mindful act, it influences our approach to the world. When we are more mindful of the needs of those around us, for example, when we read in our prayer book that God clothes the naked, that we then strive to clothe the naked. Or when God raises up the downtrodden, we aim to lift up those who need our help. And when talking about the tzitzit, the fringes on the corners of our talit, the rabbis from the Talmud in Menuchot 43b say, seeing leads to remembering, and remembering leads to doing. But this teaching applies here as well. The more we look at the words of the prayer book, the more we use those words, and the more that we internalize them, the more we influence our destiny as individuals and as a community. But in addition to practicing hitbonenut, being mindful of what we are doing, mindful meditation that is, we are taught from a young age to bless others. It starts with learning to say thank you when someone does something for us or gives us something. You know, as a child, we learn to say thank you when someone gives us a cookie because it's a blessing. Thank you is a blessing. We acknowledge their act of chesed, their act of love towards us. And by acknowledging their act of chesed, we are sharing that kindness in return. As a child, it may be receiving a cookie from a bakery, and as an adult, it is acknowledging the help and guidance others may give us. And by blessing others through being grateful, we strengthen our connections, and we are inspired to be more thankful and loving in our lives because we learn to understand how interdependent we are with one another. And thus, when we are thankful for the kindness shared, we become more compassionate. To me, being mindful of ourselves and of our world and grateful of the chesed, the loving that's shown to us, does not negate the profound inspiration we may gain from watching the waves on the beach. As a matter of fact, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who practiced the idea of hitbodedut, or the element of isolated prayer, praying in a field, or looking at a sunset on the beach, can cause a very spiritual and religious moment for us. His student, Reb Nosson, he teaches that in those moments of hitbodedut, it is a moment of straight conversation. Open our heart, pour out our blessings, pour out our troubles. And while here in our sanctuary, there may be many more distractions than if we were sitting on the beach by ourselves. It is this moment that we fully concentrate on our prayer. That hitbodedut, that straight conversation to God is so important. Don't worry. God doesn't judge us, so we shouldn't either. This is a moment for us to be truly open with ourselves and with God. You see, God knows our strengths and our weaknesses. And when we open up to God with hitbodedut, with straight conversation, we are creating a moment that is unique and holy. Often we find these moments of solitude inspirational and engrossing. And we find levels of satisfaction and contentment. But humans are naturally communal beings. We want to be with each other. So for me, the prospect of davening together with my family and my friends as we are doing today, and hearing a congregation singing with joy for the prayers, is without equal. Our tradition teaches us that when 10 people gather for prayer, the Shekhinah resides with us. God's divine presence is with us. Communal prayer is such an important element of our lives as Jews. It is in public that we celebrate and we mourn. It is in public that we share our values through reading Torah, and it is in public that we find the safety and connection to others. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote in his book, Man's Quest for God, there is a permanent union between individual worship and communal worship, each of which depends for its existence upon the other. We need to find a balance in our lives which will enhance and influence our future. Rabbi Heschel went on, prayer will not come about by default. It requires education, training, reflection, contemplation. It's not enough to join others. It's necessary to build a sanctuary within, brick by brick, instants of meditations, moments of devotion. This teaches me that we should work at our prayer day by day and even moment by moment. It is not enough to do it by ourselves. Instead, we have to work on it with others as well. Learning and connecting ourselves to prayer doesn't come automatically. It will take time, but the results will help us to become more inspired toward living a compassionate and mindful life. When we insert regular moments of prayer into our lives, we become more aware of the world and of God, and in turn we gain more compassion and more understanding of the true blessings in our lives. This, to me, is so important. I've been davening with myself and with Minyan for the better part of more than half my life, since I was in college. And I have found the compassion that is found in the words of our prayer book and in the meditations of my heart to be so profound that it has truly made me a more compassionate person. And that's so important. In this world that can be so difficult and so tough, finding compassion to help another, to being generous for another, lifts my spirits and lifts the spirits of the person before me. This doesn't happen all at once. It will be awkward at first, and even at second, and even at third. It happens slowly over time. I didn't get to my place in my own prayer life overnight. It's taken me the better part of 25 years to get there. Prayer is not words. It is the experience of the soul. And that experience of the soul may influence our world in profound ways and transform the harshness of our destiny. So I want to ask you to try the following. Sit for 5 minutes every day in a quiet place. Breathe in the blessings in the world and breathe out the evil. See what that feels like after a week. Are you calmer? Are you more aware? Are you looking forward to those 5 minutes in your day? Or perhaps that's too much. Then every night before you go to bed, recite the Shema in Hebrew or in English. Doesn't matter. God understands both. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's really easy. It takes 1 minute. What do you learn about yourself in that 1 minute? Have you had any insights into understanding what it means to be a partner with God? Or what it means to love God with your heart, your might, and your soul? I'd also like to invite you to try something this year. This Sunday morning at 10 o'clock following Minyan, during the opening sessions of our religious school, I would like to invite you to come and to write your own prayer. And then you will have the opportunity to share it quietly and directly with God right in front of the ark on this bima at the Ne'ilah services at the end of Yom Kippur. As the gates of heaven are closing This is a significant moment, surrounded by family and friends, to open your heart, to open our hearts to the possibilities. I believe that our personal prayers are so important. And the beautiful poetry of our prayer book teaches us how our ancestors prayed and how we continue to use those words to aid our own personal prayers. In October, God willing, Chazan Myers and I will begin posting explanations and videos during the year to help you learn the major prayers of our service. Don't worry. The prayers, when he chants them, will show up on the screen in Hebrew as well as in transliteration, if you can't read the Hebrew. Our hope is that you will become further connected with your prayer life. And while I hope you will stay for the rest of today, and we have a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to do for tomorrow, how Chazan Myers and I have reworked Musaf, I really hope that you'll come back tomorrow. Chazan Myers has reworked Musaf in some wonderful ways. We are going to experiment with the inclusion of Hebrew chant. One verse that will be in Hebrew and transliteration so that we can chant it over and over again to create a sense of that feeling. And dramatic readings from the Mahzor. And we've shortened it in a way that is still very authentic and I hope more engaging. It will take open minds to experience the beauty and the closeness of God here in the synagogue, as well as the feeling the woman in our story felt on the beach. Whether on the beach or in our sanctuary, we want to know if God answers our prayers. And the answer is God answers prayers. We have to be ready to listen to what we need instead of only hearing what we want. The words and music of our tefillot, formal and informal, strive to reach deep into our souls and influence us in a way that we can transform our future. L'shana Tova, may each of us strive this year to strengthen our prayer life, to become closer to God, closer to ourselves, and closer to our community.